All right, friends, today we're going to read another chapter from What Do You Want? This chapter is titled The Mental Immune System. Takeaways are be positive, rely on your instincts, trust yourself. Philosopher Andy Norton talks about the concept of the mental immune system in his books and interviews. His premise is this: we have a physical immune system that fights off disease, but we also have a mental immune system. The mental immune system should help ward off bad thoughts and bad ideas. This is such an interesting concept to me. We do everything we can to stay healthy. We take vitamins, we get vaccines, we see the doctor, we openly admit to one another that we're feeling under the weather. And more often than not, once we identify the symptoms, we can treat it and get better. Do we do that so openly, effectively, and with such acceptance when it comes to mental health? The answer is a resounding no. It's a faux pas or a stigma to acknowledge or to be open about depression, negative self-image, or anxiety, among others. To admit these things as a person, specifically as a male, is considered as weak, inaccurately. The mental immune system, according to Norton, is intended to weed out bad thoughts or ideas or out there conspiracies. It's a very basic example. Norton will ask students to put themselves in an imaginary scenario sitting by a campfire. Norton then says, now imagine staring at that roaring fire and suddenly, I ask you to reach into the fire with your bare hand and grab me a hot coal. What would you say? The responses can be humorous, and in a variety of colorful ways, that most likely would be a no. The thought-provoking and simple lesson is, your mind did a quick analysis of the scenario which was presented to you. Given those circumstances, you hypothesize the outcome of burning the crap out of your hand. You likely, in a variety of ways, have arrived at the conclusion that, in fact, you should not reach into an open fire with your bare hand to grab a coal. This is a basic and interesting way to understand your mental immune system at work. And I agree, but I also think it 100% applies to the mental health status of our individual minds and existences. The mental immune system empowers positive thinking, and if strengthened, can fight off negative thoughts. In a sense, work out and or exercise your mind to be positive. Hang in there and find the silver lining and purpose in all things. Quote, my attitude is that if you push me towards something that you think is a weakness, then I will turn that perceived weakness into a strength. Michael Jordan. It is almost to a degree like you have to unlearn what you have learned about yourself. Learning new habits is not easy, but you must be patient while you're teaching yourself. To me, it's like planting seeds. Plant the idea, but then you have to be consistent with watering it or else it won't grow. It might grow a bit initially, but then it won't grow for some time. Sometimes ideas get planted and they're not fully realized until years later. Bear with me on this example, but I, in my personal Disney mind, am reminded of the success of the Pirates of the Caribbean movie franchise. Back in the 1960s, Walt Disney and his Imagineers had an idea for a ride featuring pirates. In fact, at first, the concept was more geared around a wax museum that guests walked through. After 40 years of success as an attraction at Disney properties, the movie, inspired by Walt's ride, became a multi-million-dollar success. Ideas, people, techniques all inspire cyclically and grow beyond their original intent at times. The way we view our own existence versus the enormity of time is mind-boggling. To see a timeless concept is truly magnificent, and Walt Disney was a legend for this. Think about it. We say things like, that song came out back in the 70s, or that movie is from the 90s. 1970? 1890? 1670? 1390? What 90s what? 70s what? We all seem to live within a parameter of generations. I constantly try to teach this concept to my students, and it's difficult to get them to grasp it. It's incredibly difficult for us to imagine a time or a place immediately outside of our own personal relationships and the parameters of existence. What I mean is this. The oldest person I personally have known is my great-grandmother, Zelma Pearl Brownell. She was born in 1898. So I, in the 21st century, know someone born in the 1800s. If you frame that in the right way, it sounds impressive. Yet, in the scope of world history, I only can recall an eyewitness account from approximately 125 years ago at maximum. In terms of human history, that's a blink of an eye. Think of how many lessons have been taught and handed down through our families, beginning with people we don't even know existed. While the names may be forgotten, their message may still ring clear in our minds. Quote, "We are what we grow beyond." Master Yoda. We are what they grow beyond. Such a beautiful quote in so many ways. We're all the product of those who came before us and the lessons they provided to propel us forward. A great example to use here would be when Dick Van Dyke, at 95 years old, sat down for an interview with Al Roker. This interview is a gem, by the way. You should check it out. At a point in the interview, Roker mentioned that Jim Carrey said if there was no Dick Van Dyke, there would be no Jim Carrey. Van Dyke responded to this complimentary quote by admitting he was influenced by both Stan Laurel and Buster Keaton. He even further admitted that he stole liberally from both. This is precisely what I do as a teacher, too. Student teachers, observers, etc., they've all likened me to a stand-up comedian at times. Maybe not a funny one, but, They watched me try out material, bomb, kill, adapt, cut, improvise, etc. I create my craft. I write it, I repeat it, and I perfect it. I'd be lying if I didn't admit that I, too, begged, borrowed, and stole along the way. It's a residual respect. Steal the material, pay your dues, give credit, entertain, educate, and move them along. I have often reminded my favorite teachers from high school that I have liberally stolen material from them. Mannerisms, delivery techniques, they love it. And I hope any student of mine who becomes a teacher someday steals just as much from me. It's important to keep a balance in the perpetual motion of life, struggle, growth, and progress. The mental immune system itself is a very difficult thing to keep balanced. Back in the day, I used to tell people I would watch Fox, CNN, MSNBC, and whatever fell in the middle of the opinions of those channels was probably the truth. These days, it's a lot harder to find that balance, and the perceived lack of balance may not even be as manipulative as people think. It's getting harder to find good information because of the way your searches are filtered down, and less about what information is being withheld sometimes. For example, when you search for places to eat if you live in Indiana, you don't get results from North Carolina. Likewise, when you search something specifically political or opinionated, you will find articles that fall within the realm of that discussion. You'll begin finding articles, authors, and opinions that support or agree with your point of view. This is the point where lack of balance becomes an issue. The lack of balance is how people begin living in an echo chamber, where the more they search a particular topic, the more they'll retrieve information that's in the realm of their search query or opinion. Because of this, people then believe that this is information that's everywhere. Because the algorithms in your search queries are only providing you with information specifically to your location or to your specific search, you get information that doesn't counter or argue your point. You get information that only tends to agree or be like-minded with your own point of view. This is a natural human instinct, but it's becoming harder and harder to find contrary points and bring us back to a balance that could explain a bit of the divisive political culture that we live in currently. Trust but verify. It's a quote from Ronald Reagan. To the point of this book, we do this emotionally and psychologically to ourselves. We sometimes insulate ourselves in negative ways. And when we only focus on our negative thoughts or our negative self-image or a depressive characteristic, we fail to recognize our positive traits because we don't hear them as often as the self-fulfilling prophecy. If you're told something about yourself or told something enough, or you are talking to yourself enough about a particular thing, you start believing it, whether or not it's actually true. This is where the mental immune system is so critically important, and it's probably the most valuable asset we have to use your noodle, trust your instincts, but verify your thoughts. It's a process of growth, and not unlike all the other examples. Everything happens in this process and for a reason. None of the aforementioned growth happens here, though, if we don't use the mental immune system to weed out our bad ideas, bad jokes, bad lessons, failed experiments. Failure is where we can best learn how to treat ourselves and our decision making and trust it. Do not forget to weed out the failure's roots, i.e., where you went wrong, but acknowledge the victories as well. For if you can do that, true growth can happen, and your mental immune system will grow stronger. Well, folks, that's all the time I have for today. We'll pick it up at another time. Thanks for stopping by. Until next time, good luck, and may the force be with you.